So you went to bed at like 10 p.m.
Right.
and you got your 8 perfect hours. I mean, the math checks out flawlessly.
Yep, completely flawlessly.
So why does your alarm go off and your body just feels like it's made of lead?
Oh, it's the worst feeling.
It really is. And today, we're looking at why that idea, the hours spent in bed, might actually be just the biggest lie in modern health.
It is a profoundly frustrating disconnect, honestly, because you look at the clock and you think, well, I should be completely refreshed,
Right.
but your biology is just screaming a totally different narrative.
Yeah.
We tend to view sleep as this simple math equation, but the human body doesn't run on a basic tally of minutes and hours.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the mission of our deep dive today is to decode this hidden language of tiredness.
I love that phrase, hidden language.
Yeah, we want to figure out why your sleep might be, clocking in on paper, but completely failing you in reality. So for everyone listening, if you are dragging yourself through today, let's get curious about your fatigue. Let's look at the actual mechanics of it, rather than just judging yourself for feeling wiped out.
Curiosity is, I think, the perfect lens for this, because the first illusion we have to dismantle is that simple metric of duration.
The 8 hours thing.
Right, the 8 hours. Because human biology cares immensely about continuity, depth, and timing. Sleep is an intensely active restorative process.
This is not just turning off.
No, it's not just a state of being unconscious. Like, you can spend 9 hours completely knocked out, but if that sleep is fragmented on a microscopic level, or if it stays too shallow, you are going to wake up unrefreshed.
It reminds me of the way we treat our smartphones, like leaving 20 power-hungry apps running in the background while the phone is plugged into a faulty charger.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. Because the screen is dark,
Yeah.
it looks like it's charging, but the battery is actively draining at the exact same time.
Exactly.
So what does that faulty charging actually look like in a human body?
Well, the most common culprits are these micro-interruptions that wreck your sleep architecture without you ever forming a conscious memory of them.
Wow.
Yeah. A prime example of this is sleep apnea.
So with that, you are essentially choking. Your brain is sounding an alarm, but you don't even remember it happening.
That is precisely the mechanism. Your airway partially or fully collapses, and as your breathing stops, your blood oxygen drops.
And your brain just panics.
Totally panics. It registers this as an acute survival threat, so it jolts you out of the deep restorative delta wave sleep into a lighter stage just long enough to make you gasp and resume breathing.
Oh my gosh.
And this can happen dozens of times an hour.
Wait, dozens of times an hour. And you don't even know.
You don't fully wake up, but your brain is constantly being denied access to the deepest stages of repair. So you just wake up with a headache, terrible concentration, and, profound daytime sleepiness.
And I imagine a lot of people just assume they are a quote-unquote light sleeper. They're completely unaware that their nervous system is basically fighting a battle all night.
Oh, constantly.
Are there other invisible physical disruptions like that?
Yeah, restless legs syndrome is another major one.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It creates this irresistible, often really uncomfortable urge to move your legs, and it usually happens right as your brain is trying to power down for the night.
So it just blocks you from settling.
Right. The nervous system is misfiring, and it's sending signals that prevent you from sinking into those crucial restorative stages.
It fundamentally changes how we need to view rest, I think. Because obsessing over the 8-hour mark, it's like assuming your car's fully repaired just because it sat parked in the mechanic's garage overnight.
Yes.
Like, if the mechanics weren't actually in there working on the engine, replacing the oil, fixing the brakes, it's still a broken car when you pull it out the next morning. It was just parked.
What's fascinating here is how clearly that highlights the difference between merely being unconscious and actually recovering.
Just parked in the garage doesn't equal repair.
Exactly. And it explains why the awakening process can feel so brutal.
Yeah.
When you wake up completely disoriented, feeling heavy and confused, that is sleep inertia.
Sleep inertia.
Yeah, and it becomes incredibly severe if your sleep was fragmented or if your alarm yanks you out of the wrong stage of the cycle.
Okay, so sleep apnea makes sense because your airway is literally obstructed.
Right.
Restless legs make sense because your nerves are firing.
Yeah.
But what if my physical body is completely quiet?
Okay.
Like, I don't snore, my legs are still, but I still wake up feeling just wrecked.
Yeah.
How does the nervous system interact with sleep if there is no physical disruption?
This is where we look at the profound difference between physical exhaustion and neurological relaxation.
Okay.
We assume that if our muscles are tired enough, sleep will conquer us.
Huh.
But you can be physically shattered while your nervous system is still fully 100% alert.
Oh, here's where it gets really interesting, because I think everyone listening knows this exact feeling. You drag yourself into bed, your bones ache, your eyes are literally burning.
Mm-hmm.
And the second your head hits the pillow, it's like a stadium floodlight turns on in your brain.
Yes.
Suddenly you're replaying some weird conversation you had at lunch or doing mental math on your electric bill.
Your mind is holding on to unfinished business. And the biological mechanism behind that is cortisol and adrenaline.
Okay.
These are activation hormones. They're designed to keep you safe from a threat. So when you carry stress into bed, your brain literally keeps its sensory gates open.
Like it's on watch.
Exactly. It acts like a guard dog.
Wow.
To get restorative sleep, your brain needs to slow its electrical activity down into deep delta waves. But if the guard dog is pacing the perimeter, your brain stays trapped in faster, lighter frequencies.
So you're just hovering.
You're hovering just below the surface of wakefulness, yeah.
And it's why some people can fall asleep fine out of sheer exhaustion, but then they jolt awake at like 3, 4 in the morning.
Yes, the classic 3 a.m. wake up.
Their heart is racing, and they are already knee-deep in tomorrow's anxiety before the sun is even up.
That early morning waking is a classic hallmark of carrying invisible tension.
Yeah.
It creates this really cruel paradox where people are bone tired all day, but completely wired at night.
Wired and tired.
Exactly. They are running on a very strange, unsustainable biological bargain. Adrenaline becomes the currency they use to survive the workday.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. They use stress hormones to push through the afternoon slump, to meet deadlines, to manage their families. But that same adrenaline actively blocks proper recovery at night.
So we're essentially asking our bodies to go from 100 miles an hour to 0, just because we put on pajamas.
Pretty much. And biology just doesn't work like a light switch.
But if my brain is acting like a guard dog, how does it actually know when it is supposed to finally stand down? Like, is it just waiting for me to calm down emotionally, or is there a physical switch?
Well, there is a physical switch. And it relies heavily on external cues, which brings us to circadian rhythms.
The biological clock.
Right. Our brains have a master clock. And it relies primarily on light exposure, but also meal times and activity levels to know when to release melatonin to initiate sleep and when to release cortisol to wake us up.
Okay.
We are biologically wired to follow regular patterns of light and dark.
But modern life quietly normalizes absolute circadian chaos.
It really does.
We spend all day indoors, missing the bright morning sunlight that tells our brain to wake up. Then, at like 10:30 at night, when we should be in the dark winding down, we are staring into a brightly lit smartphone screen.
Yep.
We eat at random times.
And then comes the classic weekend lie-in.
Oh, yeah.
People drag themselves through the week on 5 hours of sleep a night, and then they sleep until noon on Saturday to quote-unquote catch up.
Which doesn't work, right?
No, biologically, you cannot bank sleep. All you are doing is drastically shifting your internal schedule. So when Monday morning rolls around, you are forcing your body to wake up several hours earlier than it did the day before.
Oh, wow.
You are essentially giving yourself a mini jet lag every single Monday.
I have to ask a question on behalf of everyone listening, because I fall into this trap constantly. If we know our bodies crave this boring, steady consistency, why do we actively rebel against it? Why do we stay up late watching one more episode when we know we have to be up at 6 a.m.?
Psychologists refer to this as revenge bedtime procrastination.
Revenge bedtime procrastination.
Yes. When you spend your entire day answering to other people, your boss, your clients, your kids, nighttime becomes the only window where you have total autonomy.
Yeah.
It is the only time nobody needs anything from you. So you stay up to reclaim your time, to feel like a human being with agency.
It's basically an act of emotional survival.
Exactly that. It soothes your mind temporarily, but it deeply confuses your body.
Right.
The biological cost of that autonomy is a disrupted circadian rhythm and mornings that feel thick and lifeless.
And because we feel that lifeless biological misalignment, we instinctively reach for quick fixes just to survive the day.
Of course we do.
But those fixes often become the very trap that keeps the loop going. So let's dismantle the big three: caffeine, alcohol, and inactivity.
Let's start with caffeine. It is the most socially acceptable crutch we have.
Oh, absolutely.
But to understand why it's a trap, you have to look at a chemical called adenosine.
adenosine.
Yeah, adenosine is essentially your brain's ledger of wakefulness. The longer you are awake, the more adenosine builds up, creating sleep pressure.
Okay.
Caffeine works by mimicking the shape of adenosine. It plugs into the receptors in your brain, blocking the actual adenosine from docking.
Wait, I have to challenge this point.
Sure.
Because we all know someone who can drink a double espresso at 9 p.m. and be snoring on the couch by 9:30.
Oh, yeah.
So if caffeine physically blocks the receptors that make you tired, how are they doing that?
Because falling asleep is not the same as achieving deep sleep architecture.
Oh, right. The unconscious versus sleeping thing.
Exactly. Someone with a high caffeine tolerance might lose consciousness, but their brain waves tell a totally different story. The caffeine is still in their system. It has a long half-life. It prevents the brain from sinking into those restorative delta waves. It lightens the depth of the sleep significantly.
Wow.
So tomorrow, they wake up with a massive sleep deficit, requiring even more caffeine to function.
It's like a predatory loan on your energy.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's look at alcohol, the classic nightcap. People genuinely believe a glass of wine helps them sleep.
Because alcohol is a potent sedative, it absolutely helps you lose consciousness faster. But as your liver metabolizes the alcohol during the night, it creates a chemical rebound effect. It spikes excitatory neurotransmitters in your brain.
Oh, no.
Yeah. This obliterates the restorative stages of deep sleep, especially REM sleep, in the second half of the night.
So it's ruining the actual repair work.
Completely. And it also acts as a muscle relaxant, making the tissues in your throat floppier, which drastically worsens snoring and breathing issues.
So the drink I'm using to quote-unquote relax my brain is actually stripping away the exact stage of sleep my brain needs to repair itself.
Yes.
That is a brutal irony.
It really is. You are sedating yourself, you're not sleeping.
Right.
And then the third crap is inactivity. When you are flattened by exhaustion, the idea of moving your body seems completely absurd.
Yeah, your brain is just begging you to conserve energy.
Exactly.
And I want to be incredibly clear here so nobody feels overwhelmed. We aren't saying you need to go run a 10K or do high-intensity interval training when you're exhausted.
No, definitely not.
Because that would spike your cortisol and just be a punishment.
Right. Complete withdrawal is the danger. Sitting on the couch all day, barely moving, breeds sluggishness.
It just makes you more tired.
Yes, it removes the physical exertion that helps build that necessary adenosine sleep pressure for the following night.
So what's the alternative?
Just a 10-minute walk in actual daylight. It gets blood flowing and reinforces your circadian rhythm. If we connect this to the bigger picture, all three of these things, the late coffee, the evening wine, the total lack of movement, are just ways we try to manually override natural biological signals.
So if someone listening has already done this work, like they fix their sleep hygiene, they cut out the late night coffee, ditch the nightcap, get sunlight, and they're still bone tired.
Yeah.
It's relentless.
Yeah.
This is where tiredness shifts from being a lifestyle complaint to a vital medical clue.
Yes. One of the greatest dangers of modern life is normalizing exhaustion to the point that we stop investigating it.
We just accept it.
We do.
Yeah.
But persistent, unexplained fatigue is a major red flag. It is the body's primary alarm bell for a whole host of underlying medical conditions. And these conditions have very distinct mechanisms.
There are different flavors of fatigue.
Exactly.
It's not just one generic tired feeling.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those mechanisms. What's happening in the body with something like iron deficiency anemia?
Well, with anemia, the fatigue is often paired with feeling physically weak, pale, or breathless. The mechanism here is oxygen transport. Iron is a crucial component of hemoglobin, the protein in your red blood cells that carries oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body.
So if you don't have enough iron,
If you lack iron, your cells are literally suffocating. They cannot produce energy efficiently without oxygen.
wow. What about thyroid issues? Because that comes up constantly when people talk about chronic fatigue.
An underactive thyroid acts like a broken thermostat for your cellular metabolism.
A broken thermostat.
Yeah. Your thyroid hormones dictate how effectively your cells turn nutrients into ATP, which is the actual energy currency of your body.
So it's a fuel problem.
Exactly. When those hormones drop, your cells literally produce less energy. You feel tired, but you also feel constantly cold, your thinking slows down, and you might gain weight unexpectedly.
So your engine is running on a severely restricted fuel line.
Perfect analogy.
And diabetes operates on a similar principle of cellular starvation, doesn't it?
It does. With diabetes, tiredness is often accompanied by excessive thirst and frequent urination. The mechanism involves insulin. Insulin is the key that unlocks the cell door to let glucose sugar inside to be used for energy.
Right.
If your body doesn't produce enough insulin, or if your cells become resistant to it, the sugar stays trapped in your bloodstream.
So it never gets to the cells.
Right. Your blood sugar is high, but your cells are completely starving.
That's fascinating. And we also have to draw a massive distinction when we talk about post-viral conditions, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Things like long COVID or MACFS, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis,
Yeah.
or chronic fatigue syndrome. That is an entirely different beast than just being sleep-deprived or having low iron.
It is. With ME/CFS and long COVID, we see a phenomenon called post-exertional malaise.
Post-exertional malaise.
Yes.
Yeah.
The mechanism here is still being studied, but it appears to be a fundamental breakdown in how the mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cells, recover from stress.
Okay.
If someone with this condition pushes through a moderate workout or even a stressful cognitive task, they experience a severe crash.
It gets worse.
Much worse. The exhaustion sharply worsens after the effort, sometimes leaving them bedbound for days.
It's like the battery doesn't just drain faster. The battery itself is fundamentally broken.
Exactly.
Which is why the standard advice of, just get some gentle exercise can actually be incredibly harmful to someone experiencing post-exertional malaise.
That distinction is so critical. We can't apply a one-size-fits-all fix to fatigue.
So what does this all mean for the listener? How do we actually apply this?
Well, the first step is to stop looking in the mirror and asking, why am I so useless lately?
Right.
And start asking, what kind of tired is this?
Yes. Is it a heavy limb tired? Is it a foggy, can't find my words tired?
Exactly. Are you breathless? Are you physically depleted after a short walk?
Just paying attention to it.
Self-observation is vastly more powerful than self-judgment. Keeping a simple, non-obsessive journal can be incredibly revealing.
Just tracking it.
Yeah, just track your bedtime, wake time, afternoon caffeine, and your midday mood. You are looking for repeating patterns.
Because fatigue feels like a giant, mysterious monster when it's unexamined.
It does.
But once you see the pattern, like, oh, I always wake up feeling like a zombie on mornings after I have 2 glasses of wine.
Right.
Or I always crash at 2 p.m. after answering emails in bed the night before.
Yeah.
It stops being a mystery. It becomes a mechanism you can tweak.
But this raises an important question, though, regarding when to escalate this observation into medical action.
When to see a doctor.
Right. If your persistent fatigue is accompanied by chest pain, unexplained weight loss, heavy periods, or if it started after a viral illness and just isn't lifting, that means it's time to talk to a doctor.
Take the journal in.
You take that symptom journal and you request blood work. We have to remember that just because feeling tired is common does not mean it is normal.
Yeah.
And it certainly doesn't mean it is nothing.
Common doesn't mean nothing. That is such a vital reminder. Because modern life is honestly beautifully structured to allow us to function while we are quietly unwell.
Oh, perfectly structured for that.
We are powered by sheer obligation and just a steady drip of caffeine. From the outside, you look fine. You still go to work, you answer emails, you make dinner.
But chronic tiredness is not a trivial thing.
No.
It fundamentally alters your reality. It narrows your world. It changes your baseline level of patience with the people you love.
It really does.
It drastically reduces your capacity for joy. It turns your days into an obstacle course that you are merely surviving, rather than a life you are actually inhabiting.
Yeah.
And that is a profound, quiet loss.
We've built a society that treats rest as a reward for burning yourself out, rather than the baseline requirement for being alive.
So true.
And it makes you wonder about the structures we live within. I mean, we accept the 9-to-5 workday as a natural law, but it was invented during the Industrial Revolution to maximize factory output.
Right, for machines.
Yeah, exactly. It was designed for machines, not human biology. So next time your alarm goes off and your body refuses to move, ask yourself, are you actually failing at sleep? Or is your biology just having a completely natural reaction to participating in an unnatural economic experiment?
That's the real question.
Keep asking questions, keep observing, and stop blaming yourself for being tired.